The current date is January 30th, 2022. Welcome to the Time Capsule podcast, where we'll be looking into the future, discussing the present, and reminiscing about the past. By the time we revisit these episodes, perhaps we'll be married or even have children. Anything could happen. The point is that we, your hosts, won't be coming back to these recordings for at least another 20 years. You, however, sitting there listening to us, can revisit these episodes anytime you like. So, let us begin.
Hello, and welcome back to the Time Capsule podcast. Guys, it's episode 3. We're here. We're live. We're not actually live, but we are recording. I can assure you that much.
We are very much alive, actually.
You got Jake, you got Brian, you got David.
Are you going to let us introduce ourselves?
Sorry.
Jeez,
No, who
okay,
needs
I
it?
see we're changing up this week, or this month.
Why not, man? You gotta keep it fresh. You gotta give them a reason to keep coming back.
Exactly. What's
Yeah.
on the agenda for today?
Well, this month we are talking about camping stories.
Camping.
Yes, I don't know about you two, but camping has been a... What? I'm sorry. Anyway, camping has been a significant part of my life. From a very young age. My dad put me in the Cub Scouts right from the start, from Tiger, and I, was in the scouting program all the way up to Eagle. So, how that's a very long time. So, that's plenty of camping trips in that span of many years. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't gone as much as you because of that, but I mean, we grew up a very survivalist type family. I mean, so we were camping all the time to learn survival techniques and all that fun stuff. So.
Did you ever do any doomsday prepping?
Sort of.
I could see that. Like, do you have like a little, like, not necessarily a shelter, but like a little stockade of like long-term food or something like that?
Partially. Like I said, Dad kind of did like one-man prepping. I mean, he had a lot of stuff ready to go, but only for like it was enough stuff for one person. And that was him.
One time, Brian and I sorted through a bunch of farming equipment, saying which weapon we'd want in the zombie apocalypse.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. When we moved from my grandma's, we put all of our extra stuff into her barn down there, and David and I went down there one time and just like searching through all the farm equipment. We're like, yeah, this would be good if we had to face zombies one day.
But that's not what we're talking about.
No, not at all.
We're not. That's a whole other episode.
Although, just one more question about that. Did your dad ever come out and like... So, there is this episode of The Office, and I know you haven't seen it, Brian, but that's why I'm about to describe it, where, Dwight... It, like, shows Dwight in the break room, and he's, like, eating just a crap ton of, like, canned food and, like, MREs, and he's, like... It, cuts to, like, the confession booth camera, and he's, like... every 5 years, I have to break out all my... survival shelter food that's about to expire and eat it before it goes bad. And he's like slurping down beans and like all kinds of food, and it's getting everywhere, and everyone else is just like giving him weird looks. And he's like, one day I'll have my bunker and the apocalypse will hit, and they'll be like, Dwight, please let me in. And I'll stand over them and say, no, you laughed at me, you will die. Or it's like something along those lines. Did your dad ever bring out a crap ton of food and just eat it?
No.
Okay.
Did your dad do that, Jake?
No, I never had like a food bunker or anything like that. I mean, the closest I have ever been directly to eating an MRE was one of my scout mates would bring MREs on campouts occasionally, and I would share a bite just to see what they tasted like. But I don't think I've ever bought one.
I actually have an MRE, a mac and cheese MRE, I think, down in my cabinet that my brother brought me because he was in the army.
No, those things are gross, dude.
I feel like that could be a funny vlog.
Yeah.
Trying MREs. Trying not to barf challenge.
Markiplier?
Yeah, Markiplier did that once.
Hey, Taras Kulakov did it before him. Check yourself.
I'm sure someone did it before him.
Yep.
I'm sure.
No
Okay, so
one has
camping.
any copyright on MREs.
That's fair. Let's get into the camping stories. Jake,
Yeah,
you
that's a good
obviously
idea.
have the most. Let's start with you.
Well, I thought I could kick off. with a story that all three of us are involved in, and because of that, gentlemen, feel free to chime in at any point. But basically, what I'm going to be talking about for this first story is our adventure at Hillsdale Lake, which is, it's like a 45-50 minute drive from the area where we all live, generally speaking. And what our plan was.
I think adventure seems like a little it doesn't seem quite the right word.
What do you mean? Like that's too much?
It was a little bit more rough than just an adventure.
Okay, well, don't spoil it. We'll get into it. Don't you worry. So basically, our plan was to go up there for the weekend. We were gonna leave. We left on Wednesday morning. It ended up being closer to afternoon, just because of multiple different reasons. And we originally were gonna come back like Saturday night, right? But our trip got cut short for reasons you will hear soon, dear listeners. So, it started out pretty normal. Brian and I met up first, and David ended up being late. I don't remember why you were late. Was it just because you were asleep?
I don't know, but he never answered the text messages, so we weren't sure what was going on.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Either, oh wait, honestly. No, I remember because you had stayed up really late the night before.
Oh,
at
that's
a friend's
right.
House.
That's right.
So you ended up sleeping in late.
Yeah, you were like out.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which
okay.
I didn't want to. I was at Colton's.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, Brian and I went out there a couple hours ahead of you, and we started setting up camp. And generally speaking, in my experience, when you go on any kind of trip, really, there's a point at which things kind of start getting interesting, right? When things start not necessarily going wrong, but when your trip starts, things start happening on your trip that are not ordinary, if you will. Sometimes your trip gets off to a nice long extended start, and nothing happens until day 3, or depending on how many days your trip is. Sometimes they happen almost immediately. It was closer to that in this case. We hadn't even gotten our tent fully pitched when this like redneck dude in a pickup truck pulls up and is like, "Hey, you guys want to trade that lot for another? I'll pay you $50 for that lot," or whatever the going price of the lots were.
That was exactly. Yeah, I think it was 40 because that's how much it cost.
Yeah, $40, something like that. And he's like, "I got," and for context, our site was right next to the shore of the lake.
It was gorgeous.
But I don't think this is going to be important in a second. I don't think you can actually, where we were, I don't think you were able to, at least legally launch a boat.
No, there was no boat
from where we were. I mean, with enough persistence and bullheadedness, you definitely could get a boat in the water there, but there was no actual ramp. But he had this little dinghy that he was towing behind his truck, and he was like, I want to launch my boat, and I wanted a primo spot right by the water. And we were like Brian and I turned to each other, and we were like we already had the tent and the tarp staked down to the ground, but we didn't have it we didn't have the poles up, and we didn't have it standing up. And Brian was like, you said you gave me the choice. You're like, you call it, and I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, sir, but we already got everything staked down. We're about to pitch it up.
Wait, hold on. So it wasn't just he showed up out of nowhere. Apparently he had been at that spot, and then the guy was I guess the people who ran that section of the camp were like, no, if you're gonna you need to go get your boat if you're gonna use
boat
it there. Yeah, if you're gonna be you need to go get your boat. And so they're instead of what he should have done is instead of paying for the lot and leaving their stuff there and then going to pick up his boat, he left to go pick up his boat and then came back and was like, oh, we were supposed to get this spot. You kind of swept in here and took it. They told us we had to go get our boat first, and we're like, dude, we've been driving around for 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. For a little more context, on the particular weekend that we were going to do it, or on those days, the camping sites were first come first serve. So you drove up, and if it didn't have a name in the placard next to the campsite, you could just take it and start unpacking it and take it. And then once you claimed it, you went to the camp master, the site master, and you paid them for the lot. But he didn't do any of that. He just like mentally in his head was like, all right, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna get that lot later. And then he didn't plan for us to show up and take it. And I just want to point out, Brian was the one who wanted to be next to the water. I would have been perfectly fine elsewhere, but that's okay. And anyway, he was like, I'll pay you $50 for that lot, you boys. And we were like, no, we're good. We're already, halfway there as far as our tent goes. And we had also, unpacked a bit of the car and set it out on the little picnic table and whatnot. And so he's like, really? He was like really pushing for it. And we were like, no, we stood our ground. And he was like, that's effed up. Except he said the actual word. And then he like sped off. And I turned to Brian. I was like,
"That was." Talk to the camp manager to get the spot back, and we're like, "Okay, go ahead," but we've already paid for this. Like,
and nothing ever came of that. Like the camp master never was like, "Oh, you have to give it to them." We didn't even talk to them about that. But I turned to Brian. And I was like, "That was I'm a little less comfortable being here now, a little more paranoid." And so Brian was like, don't worry, I got this. And he went to his car and he pulled out like 20 knives and a hatchet. And he's like, here, take a knife. And I'm like, yes, let's go.
I was legit worried that guy was going to come back and like be physically aggressive. So I was like, I'm going to be ready for this guy when he comes back.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I had a pocket knife on me too, but it was a little like 2-incher. Meanwhile, Brian had like a pocket machete. No, but yeah, so we get our.
I had a hatchet. I had 2 more pocket knives in my back pocket, and then I gave Jake one.
Yeah. And then he just had the rest of the blades in a pile next to us on the ground. So yeah, we get everything set up, and like other than that, we got off to a pretty smooth start. And I'm trying to think of anything else on the first day really went significantly wrong.
I mean, other than it was just brutally hot.
Yeah.
I guess so much that day, it was insane.
Yeah, it was just really hot because this was in the middle of like July.
August.
August. Yeah, right at the beginning of August, which is a very hot time of year in Kansas.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, the heat index actually at one point that week got over 100. So I mean, it was scorching.
Yeah, it was like a big old oven. But anyway, so yeah, the first day comes and goes, and it's like, David, you didn't get there till like in the evening because like we had you grab a couple last minute things at my house.
Oh yeah,
he met us at McDonald's.
Yeah, and we met at McDonald's for dinner.
It was like. No, I got there around like 4 or something like that.
Yeah, it was like still fairly early afternoon.
Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm confusing that with when you left the next night because you definitely left at night. My bad. Anyway, that night we sat out and looked at the stars, and
oh, gorgeous.
It was the night before the peak of the Perseid meteor shower. So there were meteors and shooting stars flashing all about in the sky. Very beautiful.
So
One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life, honestly.
It was absolutely gorgeous. And it was like perfect weather too. It was like, I want to say mid 60s, maybe low 70s. With
absolutely
like a nice clear
not a cloud in the sky. We couldn't even find the moon. It was actually kind of weird.
No, yeah. It was beautiful.
I've never seen the sky turn like completely white for a second. Like, it was crazy.
Oh yeah,
Some of those meteors were bright, dude.
Like literally the only thing I would have asked for regarding the conditions of the night was a little less light pollution.
Yeah, definitely. Was that the night
coming from like the 12 RVs around us?
Yeah, they all had like decorative lights or like a TV going on.
That I made you guys brats, or was that?
Yeah, that was that night.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have had time to cook dinner before you left. But David cracked out Brian's brand new skillet and fried us up some cheddar. Was it cheddar or cheddar and bacon?
Brat.
Yeah, cheddar bratwursts. They were delicious.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Extra cook.
I think it had to do with that skillet and maybe just being in the outdoors because like within a week after we got back, I was like, Dad, we got to buy this brand of bratwurst. It was amazing, and then we bought it and it was like mediocre, and I was like, what?
It's because it didn't have that. It didn't have that campfire smoke to it.
Did you season them at all, David?
No, it's like drinking soda out of a glass bottle. It just tastes better when it's in certain conditions.
Yeah, or like Mexican Coke.
Bottle, or like it's like drinking soda out of a glass bottle or eating brats at a camp. It just tastes better in the moment.
Actually, I guess technically Mexican Coke is not a very good comparison because there's a literal ingredient difference there, but that doesn't mean it still tastes better. Anyway, so first day comes and goes. We sleep through the night. I didn't have any trouble sleeping. I don't know about you guys, but
it took me a decent amount of time because I was listening to all the wildlife make sounds. So.
Probably all of which were making love.
Probably. I mean, that's kind of, if you think about it, that's all animal sounds are.
Pretty much. Anyway,
I did hear a pack of coyotes out in the distance at one point, though.
Yes, I think I heard those too.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Oh, okay, wait. Was it the first day when the wind took our inflatable donut lime inflatable thing?
No, that was the second day.
That was
the first day we didn't do it. The second day was when we went to the beach.
Yeah,
I thought we went to the beach both days.
No, it was just the second day.
Okay, well, a little more additional context.
Because
there's the addition to the boat ramp. There's a beach at the lake, and also you can take canoes out onto the lake, and there's fishing spots as well. It's a lake. It's what you do. So we went on the beach, and I brought this inflatable. What was it? Like a lime?
It was a kiwi. It was a
kiwi or something, and it was giant too. It was big. And it was windy that day.
It was a giant inflatable.
All three of us could fit on it.
Yeah, we were all screwing around with it, but eventually
it took us 45 minutes to inflate the thing because it was so big that you needed
we
a
didn't have a pump. Yeah, so we were just taking turns blowing into it, and we all were super lightheaded.
Yeah, we're passing out in the water and stuff.
Yeah, well, we should be clear. We had a pump. We just didn't bring it to the beach with us.
What was it? We didn't want to go back and grab it or something like that.
Yeah, it was because it was something like that. But we eventually got exhausted and we came back out of the water and sat on the sand and we put the inflatable next to us on the ground, but we didn't weigh it down, so the wind picked it up. And correction. We put a collection of small rocks on the middle of it. That was after it blew.
That was after.
Yeah,
okay.
We didn't do anything at first, and then the wind picked it up, and it landed perfectly on its side and just rolled down the beach like a giant, quarter down a table.
Almost took out a couple kids too.
It was amazing.
And I just took off running after it, and I assumed that you both were following me, but
yeah, we were.
No, not initially. And I took off running.
I was following you, but slowly because I knew there was no way I was going to be able to catch up to that. So I was like, don't even.
That's fair, but
running.
But we had to get it back somehow, and I took off running. And as soon as I saw it almost take a kid out, I was like, "We're sorry!" To the people in the distance whose kids they were.
Oh my gosh!
It was so cinematic that it just was the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh man,
it was so funny. I didn't run. I sat there and
laughed.
David That's what I did.
Laughing. Mainly at my expense. I felt bad though because I'm the one who brought it, even though we were all three were using it, and I was the only one who took off after to try to get it back. At first we weighed it down to 3 rocks, but that wasn't enough. We had to put a pile of rocks on that thing to keep it down. It was insane.
Oh my gosh! And then. Okay, so the way that the beach is set up is obviously the beach leads directly into the lake, but obviously they have to put up a barrier so people don't swim out too far and
the boats don't run over swimmers.
Boats don't run over people. People don't get caught way out in the middle of the lake or something like that. So there's this yellow barrier there that we all got on our raft and Lewis and Clarked our way out to this barrier, which is it's a decent ways away from the beach, maybe 50 yards. What would you guys say?
Yeah, and by the way, if you're listening to this and you're picturing in your mind a rope with buoys on it, that's not what it was. It's a big thick hollow PVC pipe.
It's a giant
floating, and
pipe.
It's got chains around it in certain spots to keep it generally in one place.
So we all go out there and we're farting around on this giant yellow pipe out in the middle of the lake, almost not the middle of the lake, by the beach. And I think we had the raft with us, and one person was kind of laying on it every now and again, but they got off for something, and the wind,
Oh,
the
yeah.
raft like hit a wave or something, like a small little wave, and the wind picked it up and basically just like flew it over our heads, over the yellow line, flipped it upside down, and it starts floating out into the middle of the lake. So I don't remember who it was. It might have been me. One of us was like, "Not again!" And like,
Oh, no.
I remember I dove over the line and started swimming out after it as fast as I could, and I went a decent ways away from the yellow line before I actually was able to like grab it, because it's like perfectly round on the sides
Very
and
slick and
slippery and hard to like
Yeah.
get any leverage on it. So when I finally grabbed it, I like just climbed up on top of it, or maybe I just drug it back and let it hold me while I floated with it. So from that point on, someone had to be like the keeper of the floaty at that point.
It was a little
while
chaotic.
while we were out there.
It was hilarious, but yeah, very chaotic.
Mm-hmm. And
I got so much sand shoved down my shorts. Gosh, that was uncomfortable.
We were sitting on the beach.
we canoed that day, and
We did canoe that
you
day.
guys wore t-shirts, but I made the mistake of wearing a sleeveless t-shirt because I was so hot.
No, I wore a sleeveless t-shirt.
Oh, you
too.
did? You know what? Yeah,
I was
that's
the
right.
one-
You did too.
I was the one that had a t-shirt. I was the
Yeah,
lucky one.
we all three got burned, but Brian and I got burned really bad. Like,
To clarify, I don't burn easily.
neither
But it
do
was
I.
so freaking hot that day, and with us being on the water, and it reflecting off of that, sitting in a like really really hot canoe,
Yeah.
I was just there was no way I couldn't get burned. Like I got so burned. It was terrible.
There was
Lucky
no
for
like
2
trees to
weeks.
go under either. We were out in the middle
I
of a
feel
lake.
like there needs to be we need to backtrack a little bit to before the canoeing even began. You know?
Trying to
Oh
get
yeah,
the canoe.
because
Trying to
getting the
actually
canoe to the
get
water was a
onto the
process
water.
and stuff.
But before even that, so we have the idea to go canoeing. It's a lake. You go canoeing on a lake. You go out
Yeah.
on the water. So we go
Gotta
down
get
to
that
we go down to this like little shack that there's this like old dude that lives there basically that like signs the paperwork and gives you the canoe. It's actually a really hard process to get a canoe to go. You're not just like, you don't show up with a wad of dollar bills and it's like, hey, I want a canoe for an hour,
Yeah, which
So-
is how it should be. And initially they turned us away and they're like, go to your own, site master and they'll give you a canoe. And then it was
Right.
like, nope, that's not the case. And then we had to like go back. It was a little bit of a wild goose chase.
Yeah, we had to go back and forth so many times, and we waited there for like 15 minutes before the guy actually even showed up, and he was like,
Yeah.
"What do you want?" And we were like,
I just think he doesn't like young people.
No.
"Probably not." And we were like, "Oh, we just want a canoe, sir. Like, surely you run this shack." So he kind of looked us all up and down,
I do,
and he
and
was
don't call
like,
me Shirley.
"Yeah." At this point, I'm not. You have to be 18 to. I don't know if it was 18 to ride or just 18 to rent. But he asked us, "Are you all?"
rental?
Probably. He asked us, "Are you all 18?" I was not at the time. I'm not still. I'm 17. But instantly I was like, "Yeah, we're all 18. We're fine." And he was like, "Okay." So then we were worried because we were like, "Well, what if he asks to see my ID?" And I was like, "You're not 18, you child. Get away from me." But it turned out he only wanted the ID of the person who was actually renting the canoes, so we just had Jake hand him his ID.
Yeah.
So that was done, and he was like, we drove in my car at the time, which at the time was just like a Ford Taurus sedan that had no towing capability, nothing on the
It didn't
top
have.
of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't have a roof rack either.
It was just like a city car that you
Yeah.
would go drive to work in. So he was like, "How are you guys gonna get it down to the water?" And we were like, "I guess we could try tying it to the car." That didn't work. It was way too big of a canoe.
And he probably wouldn't have let us anyway. Just
Probably
because
not.
we didn't have anything to tie it with anyway.
So what we had to end up doing was the three of us carried this canoe, like, how far do you think it was, guys?
It was across. First of all, it was across the campsite where the canoe shack was in.
I want to
It
say
through
probably a good couple
through bushes
couple
into the
hundred
shore of
yards.
the lake.
Right. It was
I'm gonna say a couple hundred yards, maybe more. I don't know.
with a very heavy canoe. It was a very long and tedious walk.
Yeah,
And
and it's a
remember,
canoe,
this
so
is-
it's cumbersome, it's unwieldy, it's heavy.
And it's still like 100 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all dying.
And like, we the guy
Use your
like
words.
made us carry it. The guy made us carry it in a certain way. So like the traditional way, especially when you've got 3+ people,
Yeah,
to carry a
flip it
canoe is you
upside
hold
down.
it over your head. That way you distribute the weight evenly to each person. But the guy wouldn't let us carry it that way for some reason. So like we had one person holding the front like rope and another on the back, and then the third person would just awkwardly like put their arm in the middle and hold on the side. It was totally unfair. And the person in the middle was just like, you know, cakewalking it.
Essentially, there was 2 people carrying this canoe.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had to keep switching out because obviously the person in the front and the back had a lot of weight that they had to carry. It was brutal.
It was fun though.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Then
The
we
memories were
went on the
great.
lake, didn't use sunscreen at all, got burned, turned into lobsters. And we came back to our site that night, and we made dinner again, and I had been checking the weather because throughout the day, because that day was supposed to be the peak of the meteor shower. And unfortunately, it was like, oh, storms are going to be rolling in, it's supposed to rain. But, you know, we were all like, rain, oh, what could go wrong? It'll just be a little light shower. You know, we'll stand out there naked and rub soap on our bodies. It'll be a literal shower as well. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't do that.
No, we weren't.
As the night drew in, you know, and the sky began to darken, initially, like, there was no clouds directly above us. It was just kind of in a ring on the horizon, like in every direction. Like you just like looked around and there was cloud. The storm was like surrounding us, but it was not over us. And I was like, "Oh man, is it gonna be?" I got like excited for it to be like that the whole night. And unfortunately, my hopes were dashed on rocks and died because the storm
Horrible death.
came
Thunder
over us.
came rolling over the hills.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? So David had to go back a day early because he had to be
It was my first
back
day
in
of
time
school.
for the first day of school, which was on a Friday. Let that sink in for a
still,
moment.
That still bugs me. I'm
So
like, why
mad
the
about
heck?
that.
The first day of school is on a Friday.
Was everyone there? Like, did people actually show up to that?
I don't know. Probably not. It's literally, it was so, like, no one did anything in any of the classes. You sat there, they talked about what the class was about, you went to the next class and repeated the same thing.
Yeah, and I guarantee you it was pretty much the same thing on Monday too, because of the amount of people that would have skipped it. And was it like first day for everyone, or was it freshman first day? Because
It was everyone. Freshman was
Okay.
Thursday.
well, I was gonna say I know you weren't a freshman, but you know it was your first day there. Period.
Everybody was there.
Anyway, so he left before it even started storming. Like he left and it was
I
clear
did
for
have
at
to
least
drive
another hour.
back. I had to drive back in a lightning storm though. Which
I was gonna say
fun.
you did get hit on the way back, right?
Yeah.
But not that bad, I imagine, because you were in a
Because-
car and you were dry.
Before it hit you guys, it hit the bridge that I had
Oh.
to drive over. So
Right. Yeah, it was like coming from the direction that you had to drive to get back home.
pretty much, and it was bad too. I couldn't see on the.
It was bad for
on
you?
The road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
driving
you were
back.
in a little thing made of metal.
Yeah, you were in a protective covering,
tent.
That's
dude.
true. On the way back, I was actually driving down the highway, could barely see a thing. I'm driving, the sound of rain. I go under a bridge and I say, "A bridge!" Everything's quiet, and then I come back out on the other side. It's still just like again. Time for your guys' actual experience. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, of course. So we see the clouds are now dark and overhead and rumbly, and we are like, a storm is coming. We must prepare. So like we like hastily putting away all our foodstuffs
Batten
and then
down
the
the
skillet and
hatches!
stuff. Like I didn't even have a chance to properly clean the like cookware because we didn't want to get soaked. So we were like, shoved it all in a
So much for
box.
that.
We stopped tending the fire. We just kind of let it burn out. We were like, either it's gonna burn out or the rain will put it out. Either way, it's nothing to worry about there. And we bailed into the tent. We're like, we'll just buckle down here for the night, play cards for a couple hours, and then go to bed. It'll be fine. Maybe
It wasn't.
not even an hour later, the rain is beating down. Like it's getting to the point where, like generally speaking, when you got a tent, the walls of the tent are water resistant, but it's resistant, not proof, because it's only to a certain degree. And if you've got rain beating up against the wall of a tent for a long enough period of time, the wall will become soaked with water, and it'll become waterlogged, and the water will start to soak through. and that is exactly what happened on my side of the tent first. and it was also like, it was like insane rain. It was like blowing down and up under our rainfly and coming down into the top as well. It was like coming at us from all angles. And the wind was blowing hard enough that the wall inverted, and it was like pushing on me, and I had to like scoot and move away. Like Brian and I got closer and closer together basically as the night progressed, and we were like pulling all our clothes away from the puddles.
We had to like huddle in the middle because there was so much rain on the outside that there's hitting the walls, like caving them in and just getting water everywhere. We couldn't do anything.
Yeah, like in addition to the wet walls, there were puddles forming on the floor inside of our tent, and we came to realize a bit later that the zipper of the front door was leaky, so water was spraying in through there as well. So my side of the tent wasn't safe, the middle of the tent wasn't safe, so we both moved over to Brian's side of the tent, which eventually became unsafe as well. So it was a wet fest.
I wish I could have been there to just be like, this is how we're gonna die.
Yeah, and just general pro tip when you're camping, don't have anything in a tent pressing up against the wall, because that'll get wet even before the wall becomes waterlogged, because it'll be pressing up against the wall. You want the wall to not be touching anything, otherwise it'll get wet. Anyway, and also on top of just everything being wet, we had a campsite with electricity, and we had a power like a extension cord running into our tent, so it was like another layer of scariness on there. And eventually,
no, because I remember I unplugged it before we went into the tent.
We had it plugged in while we were in the tent, because remember we plugged our phones in, and we tried to plug in the projector.
Oh shoot, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we unplugged it before we left.
Yeah. Okay. Just a little another side anecdote. Brian brought a portable projector, and we were like, yeah, we're gonna string up a sheet in the tent. We're gonna watch a movie every night. And then he plugged it in and he turned it on and it overheated immediately. Because it was
so humid and hot that just like the fans couldn't take it.
And it just attracted just bugs.
Well, it wasn't even that. Like what we would do is we would just open the door to Brian's car and just leave it open whenever, so we could just walk up to it and grab gear whenever.
I am still.
And the overhead light stayed on, so it just got filled with gnats. It was crazy.
At one point of the day, I like opened the car and turned my flashlight up towards the ceiling because I was looking for something, and I just like, you could hardly see the ceiling. It was so covered in gnats.
It was ridiculous.
I was like, what the heck is going on?
And then I tried to pull Jake's cooler out of Brian's car, and I ended up snapping the lid off.
Oh yeah, we're getting all over the place. Wait, when was that though? Was that on day 2?
That was day 2. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it like broke the hinge.
Anyways,
the hinge, it was an old cooler.
After the tent like got almost flooded, we ended up like we sat in my car. It was like 1 a.m.
We had to bail to Brian's car, which was like, it was next to the tent, but we still had to like run through the rain, right? And I had to run around the car and get in the door.
Was, like, super uncomfortable because we're soaked sitting in this cramped car, and I had so much stuff behind my seat. It was like leaning forward.
And
so I'm like hunched over, cold and wet, and we were intending to wait out the storm, like, you know, hopefully it would go away.
Yeah, we sat there for like 2-3 hours.
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours, and we finally like look at the weather and like it's not gonna pass.
Yeah, it was not letting up. We were still in the middle of it according to the radar.
And try to sleep out throughout the night, or we can drive the 40-50 minutes home in the rain at 4 a.m. and, you know, like get a couple hours of sleep before we have to come back.
Yeah, and that's ultimately that's what we decided on, was because initially I was like, maybe we can get a hotel nearby. And then Brian was like, it's only a 40-minute drive, you moron. It's not worth it. I'm just kidding.
No, I didn't phrase it like that. What I said was, I don't have the money for a hotel. It's only 40 minutes. Let's just drive home.
I was like, yeah, you're right. So I called my dad. I was like, Dad. And this is like 2-3 a.m. at this point. And I was like, so we were getting the crap eaten out of us by Mother Nature. So we decided to retreat and come home tonight and sleep in our beds, and then we're gonna come back to the campsite tomorrow and pick everything up and leave then. And he's like, half asleep. He's like, yeah, okay, all right, I'll see you when you get home. And I'm like, Dad, real quick before you go, can you get a bottle of aloe vera and 3 painkiller pills ready for me when I get there? And he's like, yeah, I'll have it.
Worst. Yeah,
and then it's sure enough, he's standing there with a cup of ice water, a handful of pills, and then the aloe vera was waiting inside on the couch.
It was like,
What
so
a
it was a
dad.
40-minute drive back to your house, and then another 20-minute back to drop you off, and then another 20 minutes for me to drive back to my house. So that's an hour drive for me. And I get home, I think it was like 5 o'clock. I'm creaking, my bones are creaking, and my
Bones.
sunburn is like rubbing all over my clothes, and I'm like in so much pain. I'm like,
Oh yeah, we
crawling
couldn't wear
almost-
shirts without being in pain.
Yeah, I'm like practically like crawling to the door of my apartment while it's pouring. I finally get in there and like get into my apartment, like trying not to wake the dog, and I'm like, oh jeez, I gotta go.
Did you wake up Addie?
Yeah, I woke. Unfortunately, I woke her up. I was like, I felt bad, but I was like, I wasn't gonna sleep on the couch because we had a crappy couch at the time. So like, I'll work my way into the bed. I'm like, I'll try to lay down here. I ended up like not using a blanket because I was like, this is just, it's too painful to
Can't
have
put
anything
anything on
on
your
my body.
Yeah, I had to
Oh.
request off the next shift that I was working because I couldn't raise my arms like above my shoulders.
It was
Man,
bad.
you guys had
And
it
I
bad.
ended up
Mine-
peeling so bad too.
mine
My
was-
mother
I had
was
to wear-
loving
I
it
had to
though.
wear
She
long
loves
s-
that kind of thing.
I had to wear long sleeves at work for the next like 2 weeks because my arms were peeling so bad. Like it was awkward for me to have my sleeves up.
Oh, are you kidding? I didn't care about that. I was like, let my skin cells
Well,
fall
here's
on
the
this
thing.
person's package.
Well, the thing is, like, I work in a grocery store. I'm handling people's food. I don't
That's
want
fair.
that. I don't want them to be looking at that and be like, "That's disgusting."
Yeah.
Did you want some extra skin on your pizza, sir? You pull out like a cheese grater, you just like.
Oh, gross. Stop it.
Somebody brings their salad in, and you're like, "Have some Parmesan cheese."
Oh, waiter, this Parmesan tastes kind of weird.
Dude,
It's
that was
flavored
a
with my flesh.
that
Welcome to
trip was
Subway,
like-
sir. Eat flesh.
New slogan.
Yep. That trip was amazing, though.
It was
Yeah.
50-50 for me. It was 50% amazing and super fun, and then 50% just torture.
Okay.
I would say it was probably like
100
40-60 for me. 60 great, 40
100% torture in the moment, and
Yeah.
then afterwards,
That's true.
it's just fun to look back on.
Yeah, we can look back and laugh at it now. Yeah.
Now
That's
our
true.
next camping adventure, we can go farther out from where we live.
We can go even
As
further
we-
beyond.
We need to make sure we actually look at the weather this time because I don't remember I don't think we looked at the weather last time. We were just like, hey, cool, meteor shower. All right,
Yeah.
sweet, let's do it.
Also, we need to actually go over the list before we call it and head out because we like skimmed them and we're like, yeah, we got what we need, and I ended up having to buy like a $9
that's right.
towel at Walmart.
Yeah, because then we went to
'Cause I
Walmart and we
screwed
still
up,
bought
forgot
a
it.
crap ton of stuff, dude.
We all bought fishing poles too.
That trip that emptied my bank account. I had, like,
Yeah.
nothing left after that.
Oh yeah, I bought like a couple fishing poles from Walmart.com, and we were like, all right. And I gave one to David, and he like went to cast it and it like fell apart in his hand.
Well, that's right. Yeah, okay. So then, what is it? David and I went to Walmart, or we went to Walmart, and David and I got poles, and they were so much better than the ones you had brought with you.
Oh
I
yeah.
were
was
like-
so
they were
mad,
like the
because,
same-
and they were like relatively the same price too. I was so angry.
Yeah, they're like $10. I actually
was-
still have mine. It's actually still
It
good.
literally just collapsed in my hands, dude. Like the
I'm still proud I caught the biggest fish that week.
Don't
the
remind me.
biggest fish.
The biggest fish.
All right, I think.
But
it's-
yeah, we were unprepared because like Brian and I, we were getting groceries at Walmart at the like near the campsite, and I was like on the phone with David, like, David, wait, before you leave town, grab this real quick from my house.
I did have some of the best little like pizza pan things I've ever had.
Oh yeah, we bought Lunchables pizza kits, and then
Yeah.
we took the pizza sauce and the cheese, and we put them between two slices of bread, and put them in a hobo pie maker, a campfire maker thing, and we put them in the fire, and then
It
I
was
just
so
ate the
good.
crust like a cookie.
Yeah, it was so good.
Okay, that's one camping story down.
Dang,
Next
and that
one.
took 40 minutes.
It took 40 minutes.
So
This
we
is gonna
took
be-
forever on the intro, but
Unless we
anyway.
blow through these next few, this is going to take a while.
No, I go ahead.
I welcome it.
So let me see.
Brian, I think
All right.
you're up.
Senior camp moments.
for context, this is like high school.
Yeah, I was about to go in
Age.
there. Okay, so
Okay, yeah,
for
sorry.
context,
I'm at senior camp. Senior
high
citizens.
school, it's a high school church camp. It's like as soon as you go into high school till the year you graduate, or like maybe the year after you graduate. I can't remember.
Yeah, you can
it's
go
the
the
year-
summer after you graduate as well as
Yeah,
the
summer
summer
after
before.
you graduate.
As a senior.
But there's a tradition, and David, I don't know if they did it this year or not, because I wasn't there. But there's a tradition that's been going for years and years, where if your first year of camp, on like the last night that you're there, if you're a guy at least, you go out and you have to do some stupid thing to earn your man card.
Yes, the man card.
It used to be, and this kind of bothered me because back when my brother was going, it used to be like actual manly stuff. Like you had to have the biggest guy, like the biggest, burliest guy in the camp punch you in the chest or something, or you had to like eat a plate full of peppers without taking a drink of something. Like it was actual like manly stuff. By the time we were going, it was like it dwindled down to like stupid pickup lines was about the gist of everything.
Yeah, or go steal the ball from the middle of the Gaga
Yeah,
ball
like
game.
go steal a ball from the middle of a game and like just basically
Run
take
away
off with
with
it. Like it was dumb stuff. Like I wish it was still manly stuff, but for some reason, Andrew was in charge of it that year when I was going because he was the senior. Gave me like the dumbest pickup lines. Like they were both poop related. So I
Wait,
don't
what were
know-
they? I want to know now.
I'll get that here in
Okay.
a second. But I'm like the most unsociable person in that class, okay? And he gives me the most annoying, most awkward pickup lines to go give to these two random girls that I've never met. Because I mean, I couldn't give it to somebody I did know because that was weird. Not that it wasn't weird otherwise, but like they like picked out a random girl in the crowd, and they're like, "All right, go give this line to her." And then I had to do it to a different girl, and it was like the first girl. I had to go up and because I'm not a social person. I don't do well, first of all, talking to people I don't know, and second of all, at that time, I don't do well talking to girls either.
Yeah.
So trying to give this pickup line was like the most awkward thing I have ever done. And I had to walk up, and she's got like 4 friends around her too, so it wasn't just this one girl.
And that's
And I had to
typically
be
how
like-
it went too. Is you had to like flirt with someone in front of their friends.
Yes, and so this is the first one I had to give, and it's pretty common. It was like, hey, I poop, and I know you poop, so can I have your number?
Oh yeah. Oh, we have so much in common. Yeah.
And yeah, and I was like, I obviously got shut down because that's never gonna work on anybody. And
He's
I
like,
had
if
to,
you were a booger, I'd pick you first.
I had to like walk away defeated, like, and be like, oh man, that kind of sucked.
I don't know if that's really a defeat though. I mean, the expectation there was that she was gonna turn you down.
Is it really
That's
a
fair.
loss if you already knew you lost?
That's true. But then my second one was even weirder. Okay, so
Like if she
And I
would have
had
said yes, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
the second one I had to give could have been phrased a little better, but the way they had it written down, they gave me, it was just I just kind of memorized it and read it out to her. But I had to walk up to her and be like, "Hey girl, my love for you is like diarrhea. I just can't hold it in."
Oh yeah.
And she just like stared at me like I had just said the dumbest thing she has ever
It's a
heard in her
liquid.
life. And I was like she didn't say anything.
My
She just
love is
stared at
like
me.
diarrhea. It's a liquid.
It's a liquid. But she stood there and stared at me like for a solid 2 minutes and didn't say anything. So I was just like, okay. And I just turned around and walked off. I was like, I couldn't stand there any longer.
My love for you is like diarrhea. It means there's something wrong with my body.
How to insult somebody and give a pickup line at the same time? It means there's something wrong with me. No, I hated
It
that.
means I
was-
ate something bad.
It
Oh my
means I'm on
gosh.
acid. And then since that was quick, I got one more story from, and I'm kind of jumping around all the place. I'm not like sticking to one camp at a time here.
Oh wait, you don't want to keep alternating?
Well, I said I got 2 quick stories. So that one, and then
Oh, okay.
the Hollis Center, which obviously we have a story about later that Jake will go over probably.
Well, we can all
The
three
Hollis-
tackle it like earlier.
The Hollis Center is a camping ground it's a Boy Scout campground, but we used to rent it out every year in like November.
I don't think
for
it's
our
is it
youth group.
predominantly for scouting.
Yeah, that's what Bob was telling me at least.
I think you're thinking of Cub World. which is
No?
not the same as Hollis Center. It just happens to be right there.
Okay. Well, anyway.
I don't know. You
Hollis
might be
Center
right
was
though.
It was a campground that we rented out every year for our youth group to go spend a couple nights in. That is actually some of my favorite memories were at that that campsite. But the very first year that we did it, the very first group that went, we stayed in tents instead of cabins.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I swear, dude, it got so cold that night. Like, it was freezing.
That's
And,
right.
The first night we were there, we were cooking hot dogs and stuff over the fire and everything. We had like our poker sticks, and for some reason we thought running with those hot poker sticks was a good idea.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Because we had, well, not everybody did it, but there was some of us who were like, we got our hot dog cooked and we had to turn and like bolt down the sidewalk to the gazebo in order to get the buns and everything. And so I turned, started taking off running, and I dropped my hot dog on the ground.
Oh,
So
rip! You hate to see it.
I stopped to bend over, pick it up, and I stood up and turned right as Zach Salazar is running up behind me
Oh.
with his hot poker stick out.
Oh.
And it ended up going through my arm, not like all the way through the middle of my arm, but it caught
Like,
the outside
it caught
of my
your
skin.
flesh.
Yeah, and like went through, and I actually still have a scar here. It's not very visible now, but there's still a little
dude.
pink
No.
scar from when it like poked through my skin and got through
So,
my arm.
gosh.
so painful.
I bet you were
It
like,
hurt so bad. It didn't bleed, but it hurt really.
Well,
really
yeah,
bad.
Did it
it just like
cauterize itself?
instantly cauterized.
like a
Oh,
lightsaber.
But yeah, it was funny. I was
Jeez.
looking at that the other day and I was like, I can't believe I still have that scar. It's like a
Dang.
little pink-white flesh mark.
You know what?
Gross.
I have a little Boy Scouting tidbit that occurred at the Hollis Center. If you'll allow me to tell it real quick, this was not
course.
planned on my little list though.
That's all right.
So I was there with my troop, and one of the older kids. He's the son of the there's a leadership position in the troop. It's not scoutmaster, but he's like in charge of. It's like the advancement coordinator, something like that. Like he's the one
Right,
you
right.
go to when you finish your requirements and you want to get the next rank, or when you want to meet the requirements for a merit badge, you talk to him. And his son was an older scout, still partaking in the program, and he stayed there like way longer than he needed to, because he wanted to be a leader and a good influence on us young boys. And I admire that. That's an admirable, solid leadership quality right there. But anyway, we had this like giant paper bag full of like kindling. I mean, we were just tossing it in the fire throughout the night to feed the flame and keep it burning. And
As one does.
We emptied it pretty quickly because it wasn't all the way full. And the kindling, it was actually pretty big. It was not just all kindling. It was also like wood, like logs. And so this older guy, Carter, he takes the bag and he just like sets it on top of the fire without
What?
like tearing it up at all or anything like that. And he's like, there, that should do it. And then my dad was like, hey Carter, have you ever heard of a little thing called a hot air balloon? And then as if on he's like, well actually, now that you mention it, and as if on cue, the bag rose up off of the fire and into the sky and just started floating away. And because we are Boy Scouts and they hammer safety and into your head, we had to fire safety, we had to chase after that thing and make sure it didn't set anything on fire. So we were just like chasing after this burning bag as it floated through the air. It didn't catch anything on fire though. It just landed.
Have you
down
ever
on the
heard of a
ground.
hot air balloon?
Bye bye. Okay, all right.
So he put it down to where like the opening was on the fire.
Yeah, I mean, I think he tore the side a little bit, so it was kind of more flat. But yeah,
Aw.
it filled up with hot air and just still took off. It was so funny. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna pass the baton on to you now, David.
All right, let's see. In terms of camping, we have no camping.
I was about to quote that exact meme.
I don't have too much camping experience, but I do have a couple stories from junior camp, senior camp, the Hollis Center, and I was actually thinking of one. I went over to my friend's house once. He lives up in out in Lawrence, maybe. He lives up in northern Kansas.
Up.
He lives up. But me and a bunch of our friends spent the night at his house, and we decided to go to set up a tent and go camping in the graveyard he has in his backyard.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. There's an old Civil War general buried there, which
It's totally
is
not right out of a
kind of cool
horror movie at all.
Yeah, I know. It was, so, we set up our tent, we mess around, he's got a pool in the backyard, he goes swimming for a little bit,
Nice.
and, we settle down for the night, and we're all in our cabin. Me and Carson, we stay up for like 2 hours in a, like, YouTube Nightcore music live stream, just watching people roleplay for like 2 hours. It was so much, yeah, it was so much fun. But when it was actually time to go to bed, settle down, I don't know what it is, but all the sounds of nature keep me up for a little bit before I fall asleep. Yeah, they start to. There's just so much clashing that my brain's trying to register it all and doesn't just turn off. But as I'm trying to sleep, everyone's in the tent, right? As we're sleeping, I hear footsteps outside of the tent, like walking around. And keep in mind, we are in a graveyard, so I'm a little.
It's just Scooby-Doo and the gang.
Yeah, I'm a little perturbed by this revelation. But some of the guys had decided to go inside and sleep because it wasn't comfortable outside because they're lame. But I figured it might have been one of them. But the thing is, they maybe came from inside to grab something from the tent or something, and but
of course.
I threw that idea out of the window really fast because if you go out the back door, there's a motion triggered light that reached all the way to the that would have triggered. So I was like, I'm gonna ignore that and pretend I'm sleeping. So in the morning, I decided to ask around. Everybody that was in the tent heard it. And everybody said, the people that weren't said it wasn't them. They never went outside. So I was like, I don't know, man. That's pretty sus.
Next week on Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, basically. BuzzFeed Unsolved much?
Oh, my gosh.
So that was a nice little story that I had for that.
Of mysterious mysteries.
Exactly.
What?
And me and my dad tried to go camping once. And we went down to Hillsdale Lake, actually. We found another little site. We got there, it was dark, and for some reason, we decided not.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but did you bring a boat with you?
No.
Okay, so when you got there, did you pull up to two
Yeah,
people and say, hey, can we have that lot?
We
No,
started,
I'm just kidding.
We started accosting a random couple who was just trying to settle down.
Actually, because there was,
Well,
when the guy who
Jake and I
pulled
are
up and
not
harassed
couple.
us, he had a kid.
Really?
Yeah.
It was me from a different timeline. No, but we decided it would be a good idea to set up the tent later and just make some food and popcorn and eat first. So
Okay.
as we're eating, I see lightning and thunder rolling across the hills toward us, and I was like,
always a good sign.
Dad, that storm's kind of coming our way, isn't it? So
That's
yeah,
thunder.
we ended up getting rained out. We tried to wait it out in one of the bathrooms that was close by. But it was too bad. We had to
Bathrooms at
leave.
Hillsdale just leak.
The bathrooms
Yeah.
at Hillsdale are back rooms type bathrooms. They're
Well, except for the
horrifying.
one, I will say, where in the campsite where we went to the canoe shack was, that was a new
That bathroom was
campsite, and
magnificent.
the bathrooms are nice there.
Yeah,
I would poop there.
I would also poop there, and that's not in public. That is a privilege, being able to poop in a bathroom.
Oh yeah.
Possible episode idea. States you would poop in.
States. I would like to poop in a gaseous state.
No. Chicago,
Plasma.
off my list.
What
I would
state
never
of
poop in
matter are
Chicago.
you in? But so that's another one of my. That was a very short camping trip for me, and the only exciting camping stories that I can think of, which I don't know if one of you wanted to tell it or if you wanted me to tell it, was the Hollis Center incident.
The incident.
I
of
think we can all
2016.
three tackle it just like we did at the beginning of the episode.
All right,
We all start at the same time. Okay, ready?
all right.
Well,
so
hold
once
on.
upon a
Oh,
time,
God.
2016, we all went.
So, I'm trying to think of anything else that happened. I do have a story from the most recent time we went to senior camp. I don't think it's that inappropriate. So I'll go ahead and tell it. But basically, me and my friends We had, oh shoot,
The bean tree.
yeah, the barracks of senior camp. That's just like the
big long
concrete
building.
house.
Yeah.
The long house, yeah.
That's where we were, and there's like little to no air conditioning. Me and my friends were in this like alcove of a box. that
Yeah,
had,
for context, this is in like Miamisburg, Ohio, middle of the summer, sweltering.
It's humid and hot, and it sucked. But one night, in the middle of the night, Colton, I was sound asleep. Colton woke up in the middle of the night and heard. I don't know how well you guys can hear that.
I can hear
He heard this sound. His mind, he said, I know what's happening. Who's doing it? First thing he does is look at me, who's across from him. We were both on the top bunks. He looked at me for some reason.
Were you awake too?
I was not awake. I was
Okay.
asleep for this. But according to him, he sat up instantly and was like, where? And we had narrowed it down to 2 suspects. We narrowed it down to either Jackson or Benjamin Alexander.
Oh, okay, all right. If we're talking about unsavory things, maybe we keep last names out of it, eh?
My bad. Benjamin person. Anyways.
I can maybe cut that audio out.
All right, that's just a recommendation for the future. I'm
Right.
sure.
I
I'm sure
usually
there are
try to
plenty of
do that.
Benjamin Alexanders out there, but
I usually try to keep it
Poison.
that way. It was just I got caught up in the story. My bad.
no, that's absolutely fair. I'm not trying to call you out on it either. I'm just
Yes, you
making
are.
sure we're all
You're
aware.
trying to
Bro.
put me down and make me feel horrible.
You're off of this podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Bro, speaking of really hot nights at camp, and
Speaking
that
of
sounds
really
so
hot
weird, but
Don't take that out of context.
nights at senior camp that ended up being, the weather ended up getting really warm and humid, I should say. It was actually, we were in the same building, the barracks.
Senior camp has a lot of
Um,
hot nights.
Yeah, but it's same building, the barracks. There was one day where the power went out in that building, and so the AC, which were the, like, window AC units, which just sucked anyways, they weren't working that night, and so it was really, really hot. And so they brought in like this giant industrial fan.
Oh, I think I
and
remember
stuck it by the door and faced it towards the rest of the room. So it was really, really loud. But,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
at
they
least
had
it
to run cords
circulated
to another
air.
building.
Yeah, and so at least got some air. But there's like 4 or 5 of us in the very back of the cabin, behind a wall that we weren't getting air because we were behind a wall. So in like the middle of the night, we're all really hot. So we got out of bed and laid our mattresses right in front of the fan, so we could stay cool. And then Jake gets up to go to the bathroom and
Wait,
accidentally
me?
kicks. Yes, it was you. He accidentally kicked one of us and was
Oh,
like,
I don't remember that.
"What the heck are you guys doing down here? Go back to your bunks." We're like, "Dude, we're sweating our butts off back there. Give us a break."
At the Hollis Center, the guys always sleep in kind of this little log cabin, but we all sleep on the floor in our sleeping bags. And one night, Gabe went to go to the bathroom, literally walked across me, from head down to toes, just walked across me to the bathroom, and it woke me up. And he went, "Oh, sorry," and then kept walking.
It's like, have you seen that video of it's like a dash cam, and it's of the car in front of the person who's got the dash cam, and the car is the front of it is on the
Every dash cam
crosswalk,
video ever.
and this guy walks up, steps up onto the hood, walks across the hood, steps down.
That's perfect. I thought of another one before I mentioned that one, and I knew that I was going to forget it if I said that Gabe walked across me, but now I can't remember it. I think it had something to do with senior camp, but I don't remember.
Gabe and his camera phone.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Gabe used to take pictures, not inappropriate pictures. I have to add.
Okay,
They
you
weren't
can't just
inappropriate.
say he used to
Sorry.
take pictures and then
Gabe
stop.
used to take pictures.
Do
No,
take
but
pictures.
He didn't take inappropriate pictures, but the way he took the pictures made it seem like something inappropriate was going on. Like David was sitting in his bed with his legs pulled up and a pillow in between his legs hugging it, and he wasn't wearing a shirt. So all you see in the picture is his legs, his pillow, and his arms wrapped around
I
his
had
pillow.
shorts on.
But you couldn't really see them because they were rolled up. So you couldn't tell what was going on, but it was part of you didn't want to know.
Oh,
my
I remember
gosh.
I remember the story I was going to tell. It was senior camp. So me and Brian, right, we're hanging out, we're rocking around. He knows where it's going. we're hanging out. We're walking around on the basketball court. It was.
Oh.
We're chilling. We're talking to each other. You know, having a good time like buddies do. And one of us, I don't remember who it was, looks over, like in the distance, and we're like, "Oh, dude, look at all those clouds! Like that looks like a storm." Like, and
That
we
seems
can
to be a
see-
recurring theme in your stories.
There is a recurring theme. There's a lot of rain when I go camping, but basically we can see the rain falling down. We're like, oh, dude, that looks so cool. And we notice that this rain is rapidly approaching us. The storm is blowing towards the camp. And it's coming very fast. Like, it's on the far end of the camp already, probably. Like, it's already way past the paintball course at this point. Like, maybe even, like, almost to like the girls' cabin, or the one girls' cabin that has like the vending machines, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the one that's
So-
like separate, yeah.
Brian and I are like, run! So we start racing back to our cabin as this rain is just sweeping across the camp. Like, we're watching people. It was like a battlefield. Like, we're watching people get knocked down. People are like taking shots to the back, falling over.
It was quite humorous. We were
We
like
get-
watching the rain just roll over everything.
Just before the rain gets to us, we both jump up onto the porch of our cabin that has like a roof over it, basically, and we like,
You were on the
luckily we
little
had- we had cabin-
little cabins?
it was cabin
Yeah,
one.
we had cabin
Okay.
1, so it was like right on the edge of the basketball court. So we were
Oh, that's
just
nice.
able to get there just in time before the rain hit us.
It swept through
It was
so
the
fast.
funniest thing. Man.
We're watching our friends like just try to get there, and some of them are just walking, accepting defeat in the rain. It was hilarious. It was awesome.
Resigning to their fate.
Okay, so we were going to start on the Hollis Center incident, and then we got very much sidetracked.
That's
Well,
true.
no, I haven't gone through all my stories yet. I have a plethora,
All right, why don't you?
if you'll
Why don't we take a-
allow me.
Yeah, go ahead.
You do that.
Okay, well, this next one is called... I have like a list of stories that I wanted to tell, and
also-
they're all like named, right?
Uh-huh.
So I called this one Destroying Spencer's Leg in Cub Scouts.
I like where this is going.
So, okay, so in my Cub Scout pack, so you're in Cub Scout in Boy Scouts, the group of like scouts that you're in is called a troop, and in Cub Scouts, it's a pack. It's a den, and then the group of dens is called a pack. I think
Right.
I might have that backwards actually. I'm not 100% sure on that, but you get the idea. The point is, I was with. I'm talking about my group in Cub Scouts, and we all went to the same elementary school, and in both Cub Scouts and elementary school, there's this kid named Spencer, and he was I wouldn't quite call him a bully, but he definitely like, he messed with people in an antagonistic way, and very quickly became that annoying guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No one really liked him, which was unfortunate, and he didn't really like anyone. And he and I in particular, butted heads a lot. So we are on this camp out where we went out we took the train to Knobnoster, and it's at the end of the journey. The dads are all getting together, and they're talking, and I don't even remember why Spencer and I were talking to each other, but I was holding my walking stick, like, not on the ground. It was not touching the ground, and I was like holding it in front of me, and he like said something, and he kicked the bottom of it, and it went into my face, and it split my lip open, and I started bleeding, and I got like super angry. I was seeing red, and so, and I was like at an age where I was like, I didn't care about, suffering a
Consequence.
punishment for retaliating, but I knew that
murdering
if I was going to retaliate, it had to be at the right time. I couldn't just do it, otherwise I might get stopped preemptively before I could exact my revenge, right? And so I bided my time. Whatever. I lay in wait, and a couple minutes later, the dads all got together, and they were like, "Hey, let's take a dad picture before we head out." Yeah, all right. And so they're all like standing together, and they give Spencer the camera, and I was like, yes, the opportunity has come. So he's like holding the camera, he's like lining up the shot. He's like, all right, everyone, get ready and smile and say cheese. and I snuck up behind him, blood on my face and death in my eyes, and I freaking kicked him as hard as I could in his leg, and he went like, and I kicked him right as he took the picture, and he went down and he started crying, and so because it was right when he took the picture, every dad in the picture is making like a face of like, oh, like oh no, except for his dad, who is still beaming widely. But as ironic and as funny as that may seem initially, I would later go on to find out that he was suffering some problems at home. Not to be a downer, but of course, I kicked him, he went down, I still, suffered the consequence. But my dad was like, hey, I mean, he made you bleed, and you didn't make him bleed, so we're going to punish him worse, obviously. But don't do that again, son. Self-defense. So how did good for fighting back.
How did you kick him? Did you like straight forward with the tip of your shoe, or was it like from the side? Or?
I think I came a little, to my memory, I came a little to the side. I think I hit him either in like the shin or the knee. Like I know it was the lower leg, and he went down and he started crying.
If it was the knee, I was gonna say that's.
Yeah.
I would love to see that picture.
Oh, I'll have to show it to you sometime. Yeah, it's like it's still, we have like a big version of it hanging on the freezer in the basement. It's just like there on the front on the door. But yeah, it is like a legendary story now.
Awesome.
In my family. And yeah, the dad's faces all look so funny because they're all just like contorted and like oh, like, that's gotta hurt. That's gonna leave a mark.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. And then moving on from that story, we're going to. This takes place at around the same time. Like I'm still a kid. I'm young. I'm at junior church camp. So like elementary school age, with a group of friends, and I think Brian, you were there, and a storm rolls in, as it does in nature, and everything is wet.
Another storm in a camping trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Everything is wet. The the lake water level is up higher than it's been in a while, and there are puddles everywhere, and so. Me and my group of like friends that I'm with, we're standing on our porch, and some of us are in the doorway of the cabin, and we're just kind of watching the rain fall. And suddenly, there's like a projectile sails past us and hits the wall next to the door, and it missed everyone. And we're like, what? And we like look to where that came from, and this kid is laying in a puddle on like that had formed on the like combination dirt gravel trail, like walking trail, near the front of the cabin, and he's like, giving us like a goofy smile, and he's like, he's not saying anything, he's just throwing mud clods at us, and we're like, oh, take evasive action, right back in the cabin. We like close the door right as one hits the door, and we're like watching him from the window, and he like, he gives us a sly grin, and then he turns around and he moons us. Just full on, full moon, pale white butt cheeks, out in the sun, and we're like, oh! We try to put the blinds down and like look away.
Was that one of like your guys' like troop members?
No, this was at church camp.
Oh.
Yeah, and yeah, it was one of our one of from our church. But yeah, that was memorable.
That's
and
awesome.
I think that was the same year that my dad caught this massive catfish, and like, I don't remember, I think like the hook got all, jerked around inside the body of the fish, and it, like, when he reeled it up, it was like bleeding heavily, so he like held it in his hands to get a picture with it, and then he had his hands were covered in fish blood, right? So he like went up to a kid and he did the like fake taking your finger trick off. He's like, "Hey kid, check this out." And well, his hands were covered in blood, and the kid was like,
I love your
good
dad.
times. Okay, and now I'm gonna fast forward some years
Whoa.
into. I'm gonna fast forward into like late middle school, very early high school, to Camp Geiger, which is the summer camp you go to in the Boy Scouts, where you can earn like
Geiger.
6 merit badges you can take. Actually, I don't know what the maximum is, but you can take multiple classes in a schedule kind of like high school or college, where you like go from class to class,
Right.
and by the end of the week, you've earned a merit badge for whatever class.
Right.
And this camp is in St. Joseph, Missouri, and
Too
just
far.
like in Kansas, they're no stranger to severe weather. And part of the protocol there is they have like a siren to let us know when a storm is rolling in. And it's bad enough that we need to evacuate to storm shelters, which they also have on site. And they get pretty bad. They got pretty bad over the years. And I believe this is the first year I was ever there at Camp Geiger. And this is before I have had what I have now. Is generally when I go to like camps like this, I'll bring my Camelback. It's not actually a Camelback, but it's like a colloquialism, like you say, Velcro
Off-brand.
or Kleenex. Yeah, it's basically it's a backpack with a water bladder in it, and that's what I use all the time now. But before I had that, I had this like red and black, like modernized canteen with a sleek white lid on it that flipped open, and you just drank from it. It's pretty nice. I still have it. And you sling it over one shoulder like a traditional canteen, and that's what I had been toting around all week. And it's important to note that I had started to get accustomed to having that just little bit of extra weight on my shoulder, right? Because like the whole time you're there, they're hammering into your head, hydrate or die, because it's summer camp, middle of summer, sweltering heat, very hot. Sun is beating down on you. If you don't hydrate, you will start to suffer, health-wise. Like, I got dehydrated there one year, and, like, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. That's a different story for another day. But anyway, so one night a storm rolls in, and it's bad enough that they have to turn on the sirens, and they're like, a severe storm has rolled into the area. I don't know if that's gonna sound awful on the audio. Report to the storm shelters immediately, in an orderly and calm fashion. Report
Terrifying.
to the storm shelters. And
The
these,
apocalypse has begun.
and like depending on what campsite you're in, this can either be like, a brief 3-minute walk, or you could be crossing the entire camp. So I think we were like in the middle of that, like somewhere between that, in the middle of the camp. And we're making our way. We're running to the rain shelter, and the way they train you when you're in general when you're evacuating in an emergency, but also in this situation particularly, is you want to have a go bag, or just have like a couple essential things that you want to grab and go. You don't want to spend too much time trying to bring everything with you, or too many things with you that'll bog you down and end up having you get caught in the storm.
And for those who don't know, a go bag is like a backpack or something that just has like all of the immediate supplies you may need.
Yeah, that you might need while you're in shelter, that you wouldn't be
so
able
you
to leave.
literally
Yeah.
just
It's a bag that you can pick up and go with.
yeah, pick up and go.
Yeah, and in this
The Minutemen of bags.
Pretty much.
in this context, my dad had the go bag, but I was still responsible for my canteen. So we're running across the camp in this torrential downpour. The wind is blowing against us. We're doing that. Have our hands in front of us. We're like braving through the storm, and at this point I'm wearing a poncho to try to keep dry. And I look down and I don't see my canteen. I'm like, oh no, Dad! I think I left my canteen at the campsite. I'm having to yell at him so he can hear me through this like rain, right? And he's like, all right, you go on ahead. I'll get it. And he hands the go bag off to another like adult leader, and he turns around and he runs off and disappears into the night.
Jeez.
Never to be seen again. No, I'm just kidding. He's still alive. But he disappears into the night.
That's
I'm like,
the story
okay,
of how
all
I
right.
lost my
What
dad.
a brave man. He's braver than I have no balls at this point. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So I carry on with the rest of the group, and we get into the shelter, and we start taking off our wet clothes to keep dry, because and it's also getting a little chilly at this point because it's night, the sun's not up, and it's wet, and it's important, if you want to be warm, you got to be dry. So
Yep.
I take off my poncho, and lo and behold, there underneath the poncho is my canteen. I just couldn't see it when I looked down earlier because my poncho was not transparent or translucent. It was opaque. Because it's like the kind that's basically like a garbage bag,
You
right?
sent your dad to
So,
die.
Yeah,
over-
that's literally the name of this story, is sending Dad to his death at Camp Geiger. And I was like, oh no! And I turned around to the nearest adult leader. I was like, Mr. John, you gotta call my dad and tell him to get out of this store before he dies. And he's like, don't worry, I'll call him on his phone. But there's no way you're gonna hear your phone in that weather. So I'm just sitting there, like in the corner, in the fetal position, rocking back and forth, convinced that I just killed my dad, waiting to see whether or not he'll show up at any point. And of course, eventually he did. And he's like, he saw me, and I and the canteen was sitting next to me on the floor. He's like, you had it the whole time, didn't you? And I was like, yep, classic Jake. And he's like, whatever, I still love you, son. And yeah, he's still alive.
You sent your dad to die, and you had it with you the whole time.
Oh, I know, right? I felt so bad.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. That's such a good story.
I know, right? It's like
you
one of my favorite
gotta go
camping
back,
stories.
Dad!
Yes, and then this final story before we get to the grand finale of the Hollis Center incident.
Alright.
Is we're going to fast forward even more years. This is after I actually got the rank of Eagle. I, being inspired by Carter, I decided to remain with the troop, you know, past my 10 years Eagle, and try to be a, you know, leader and a mentor to the younger scouts. And I went on a trip. Oh, frick. I don't remember where we went, but we went to a lake because it was a kayaking trip, and we were specifically going to this place so we could kayak there. And so one of the kids is in this group. His name was Austin, and he was an interesting character. He was a eccentric, if you will. And so at this campsite that we only had like one wooden picnic table there, and you know, the main part of the story, it's all in the evening, where like this takes place where we're all preparing dinner for ourselves around the campfire. And so at this point, everything, the whole surface of the main table is covered in everyone's crap. Like all the gear is just, they put it on there, and they haven't bothered to move it in their tents yet. So I had no choice but to start doing my setup on one of the benches of the table. And you know, at this point it's dark out, but there's a lantern. There's like a big gas lantern on the to the table, and it's like on, and it's burning bright. And I also have a headlamp on my head that I'm using to light my way so I can see what the food I'm preparing. And I'm using a folding, you know, hobo pie campfire maker thing, and I'm making a pizza thing again, actually, just like I did at Hillsdale. You can't go wrong with pizza. And this is like, you know, around 2017, 2018 maybe, just for a little more context there. And I had already made one, and I had it open on the bench, and I was getting ready to put more ingredients in for round 2 to have some seconds. And this kid Austin walks up, and he's not paying attention, and he's not looking where he's going. He goes and he sits down, not directly on the metal part that was on the fire, but on the handle, close enough that it like burned him, and he like sat back up and it was like, "Ah, my butt!" And I like turned him. I'm like, "Could you not see what I'm doing right here?" And he's like, "No, it's dark out," and that's like barely an excuse because we're scouts. We make sure our areas are well lit. Like there used to be a guy, an adult leader in our troop, who at summer camp he would bring these little solar powered, like, you know how when you go up to someone's house, sometimes they'll have like little like LED lights along the path
that are
he would set those out around his tent. Like that's how into it we got, right? And so he gets like a really mild burn on his butt. He's like, "Ow!" And I like get my first aid kit out, and
ouch.
Yeah, I hand him some like ointment. I'm like, "You can take this. I'm not putting it on you. Go ahead and use it." He's like, "All right, thanks." And I was just man, this guy. All right, now it is time.
Wait, hold up. So before we get into that, I thought of a couple other stories.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead.
A break from our sponsor.
Raid Shadow. Where was I going? Right. So Hollis Center. One of the years we went. Davis. It was late at night. We were playing Capture the Flag, and Davis and Jacob.
Not me.
No, not
okay,
you.
Yeah. I figured as much.
The other Jacob. Yeah. The other Jacob. And there's one other person I don't remember who it was. but they like Davis had to pee, so he like went over the bridge, which I mean for capture the flag was against the rules. He went over the bridge and didn't even like go into the woods somewhere to pee. He like stopped right at the end of the bridge,
Right at the tree line.
and yeah, and then just like dropped his trousers and started to pee. And the other, and like it wouldn't be so bad.
Wait,
if he
who
was,
was
like,
this?
you know,
Sorry, who was this?
Davis.
Davis. Was he the
It
mad
wouldn't
pooper?
it wouldn't have been so bad if he had like, you know, just been there by himself. But the other two guys were there holding lights for him so he could see.
Never do
And so,
that,
like,
dude. Never pee in the dark. with a light.
Anybody that like looked over the bridge or even like that direction could just see him standing there taking a pee, and we're like, dude, what? Go find some privacy. Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, and anytime I have to pee in the dark, I always have my headlamp with me. So I'll find a spot, establish a direction and a place on which to pee, get everything ready to go, turn off the light, and then pee.
Yes.
Never pee while you've got a light on you, man.
Nope.
Okay, so now it's time for the grand finale. The Hollis Center bridge incident of 2016. Approximately. I think
can't
that's when it
believe-
happened.
Yeah.
So, I want to add a little more context to the beginning of this story. Even though we've already talked a lot about Hollis Center, we haven't really talked about what all there is to do there, and just, you know, added a little more background to the story. But first, I want to start out this story with a question for all you viewers, all you listeners, rather. Have you ever seen a sign somewhere at a place?
And you said
Maybe
I wonder
it
how that
wasn't there
got
before, or maybe it just is there, and it's you know, it has to do with like a safety concern, like do not walk here, do not climb this fence. Well, chances are it
Do not
exists for a
dive head
reason.
first.
Chances are it exists because someone hurt themselves doing the very thing that this sign tells you not to do. Well, that's you know, not a very unique experience, just seeing a sign. But what is a unique experience is being responsible for the placement of such a sign.
Knowing
which is exactly
that
what this little story involves.
knowing that you are a part of the story that this sign has to tell is an amazing feeling.
Mhm, yeah, and it's a really like nice sign too. It's got a nice little aesthetic to it. Anyway, let's talk about Hollis Center for a second. Hollis Center is this it's not little. It's this camping site area in Kansas. Well, I'm not done yet. And it's got plenty of things to do. There's a volleyball court. There are cabins. There are also multiple tent sites. There's a creek that runs through
Yeah.
the area. They're through the like camping area. And there's you know, I'm sure I'm, you know, forgetting something. There's hiking trails, and there's you know, plenty of trails to go on. And like the trails are on the other side of the creek from where like all the camping sites are, like where you would go to pitch a tent or stay in a cabin, right?
That's where all the fun stuff's at.
Yeah, and you
on the
can,
other side.
if you head in a certain direction for a long enough period of time, you will come to what is called Cub World, which I mentioned earlier, which is like a little, you know, fun park for Cub Scouts that has all these structures that you can go to, including mines where you can like climb underground and up ladders in these little fake
Tower
mine shafts,
thing.
but they look really cool. Like it's a really cool, not realistic aesthetic, but it's like what a kid would imagine a mine would look like, right?
Yeah.
Then there's like I want to say Civil War era fort kind of looking like, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say
Yeah,
that.
Civil War era, like fortress. And then there's also a, you know, medieval era like stone castle. And then there's also a pirate ship park, but we never go there because it's a water park, and that's always closed during the time of year when we go. Also, we're not authorized to turn on the water there. We really technically shouldn't be there at all, but we hike in there anyway because we're not gonna damage anything, and if we do, we'll pay for it. But yeah, so that's not. Again, that's not. I don't think it's technically part of Hollis Center. It might be though. I might be wrong on that. Anyway, it's definitely separate from like where the camping areas are, because you have to walk a long ways to get there. Anyway, a part of the creek and the trails that involves bridges, obviously, if you want to get across the creek. And one such bridge is a large suspension bridge. with cables that go overhead and cables that also go underneath the wooden planks that you walk upon to cross said bridge. Now, every year when we went there, we go there roughly once a year. There are occasions on which we would skip a year.
Yeah, there was
including the year 2020, good old pandemic. And the tradition is whenever we would go there, one of the first things we would do is we would all go under that bridge. Almost everyone, like maybe one or two people would not be on there specifically so they could be the ones taking the picture. We would take a group picture on that bridge. And every single year, without fail, we would make the joke, oh, we're going to break it. Oh, there's so many people on there. Oh, there's so many people on this bridge. We're too heavy where it's going to snap. But it never did.
And we got a bigger group every year.
Yeah.
It was like a
what year did
ticking
we start
time
going
bomb.
there? What was like the first year we went there? Like 2011, maybe?
I want to say it because I was just about to get into high school, so I would say 2013.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, so the point is we had been going there for quite a few years at this point. And that fateful year, 2016-ish, we all piled onto the bridge like we do every year. We did every year. And snap. One of the cables beneath our
gave
feet
way.
actually broke. And so, because it was one that was under the planks, the planks like folded down like a trapdoor. And about half of us fell down into the creek. And the creek, it's like, I don't know, maybe like a 3-foot drop.
Nah, it was
No,
close
it
to
was-
like
it
5
was-
or 6
yeah,
feet.
okay,
No,
yeah.
because actually I could walk under the bridge, so it was about.
It was
Oh,
tall.
yeah, you're
It
right.
was tall.
Okay. But it's not like,
Crazy
Indiana
high.
Jones,
No.
falling to your death. It wasn't
But as
that big of a fall.
when you're
is the
like
point.
just getting into high school, it seems pretty big.
Yeah, and also like when the creek is drier and emptier, it
Very
also
rocky.
looks bigger. And there's like rocks you can fall onto that are not normally exposed when there's lots of water in there. And so this happens, and
Let's hear it from everyone's perspective.
yeah.
Jake first.
Well, so here's my perspective. So a bunch of us were actually like sitting with our legs hanging off the side of the bridge. Because like the way that we would take the picture is someone would go down into the creek and take a picture of the bridge from in the creek. And so pretty much everyone who was sitting down fell off the bridge. A couple of them, like one of them chipped their foot, and I think the other one like broke a toe or something.
Someone broke their ribs.
Oh,
no, Colton bruised his ribs.
yeah, I was
He
gonna
bruised
say I don't
him?
remember.
Oh,
any rib
I thought
breaking.
he cracked one or two.
I don't think it was that bad. But it was still pretty traumatizing. Anyway,
Right.
I was.
There were
fortunate
kids
enough-
being evac'd on stretchers. No.
No, I was fortunate enough to be one of the people standing. So my cat-like reflexes kicked in, and I grabbed the cable behind me. And, like, there's also cables on the sides that sort of served as like a handrail, and I grabbed the one behind me, and I helped a couple people get off the bridge. They were like right next to me, and then I got off, and I just kind of stood there watching in awe. It was kind of like my version
was-
of the first episode of Lost, where Jack is just standing there with his mouth wide open as the plane explodes and everyone's like crying and dying.
It was like pure chaos.
It was
'cause,
very
like,
It got
surreal.
chaotic.
so like half the people were fine, like staying there able to
Yeah.
get off, but then there was that other half that fell into the creek, and it was like
Yeah.
There were tears and
bodies everywhere.
screams.
I mean-
it was very traumatizing, dude.
Yeah.
It really was.
And
I was lucky
it
enough-
was just so sudden too. We were like, "Oh, all right, we're back on the bridge. Hey, we're back at Hollister, guys." Snap! Ah!
Yeah.
I was lucky enough. I was on the outside because I was one of the taller kids, so they put us in the back and on the outside of the picture.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was literally like 3 steps from the edge.
I was gonna say there were people
was
who were
like-
right on the edge of the bridge who just like took one step and they were off. But
Yeah, so I was able to hop off real quick and then just like kind of direct people this way, like kind of congregate off the bridge so we could figure out what was going on.
Yeah, actually, I remember I helped. So like, I was kind of toward the middle of the bridge, and I helped another person. But like, so we had a couple of kids there that were like younger siblings of people who were the right age to be on that camp out, right? And so I remember I helped someone else pull up a little kid from the bridge,
Wow.
prevent them from falling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's see, my perspective, since it was like my second year or something like that, I don't know. I'd been there before. It might have been. I think it was my second year or something like that. I was a pretty small kid, so I was in the middle, sitting down, like legs hanging over the bridge, holding onto the railing, and all of a sudden, you know, we're getting ready to take this picture, and it's just like a jerk, and I fall downward, and I actually end up, I'm still holding onto the rail, but I end up sliding off the bridge, still holding on to the rail.
Oh, yeah.
And like I'm a strong kid at this point, so like I'm just kind of chilling there, hanging out, and I'm like watching these kids fall around me. It was like slow motion watching kids just like some kids are landing, some kids are like, yeah, pretty much. I see trees of green, red
By the way,
roses.
unfortunately, this did happen while we were getting ready to take a picture, but there is no action shot of us in mid-fall.
Yeah,
I wish
unfortunately,
that
that would have been
yeah.
amazing to look
That
back
would have been
on.
hilarious.
But I actually managed to pull myself back up, grab onto the rail, and walk off,
Right.
while other kids were being like helped down. Some were falling. So
Yeah.
I kind of, I don't remember if I think I went down into the creek to just kind of stand there and watch, but because I remember being down there. But again, it was like, how many years ago was that? 5 years ago. So
Yeah. And how
there's
many
not
people
a-
did we have on it when it broke?
there was
it was quite a few.
over 30, I want to
I was
say.
gonna say easily 20, 25.
I honestly want to say probably closer to 40.
40 kids, really.
Oh, man. Well, and
was a
adults.
large-
We had some adults
It
on
was
there
a
too.
large group that year.
But it was intense to
Yeah.
witness this event happening.
And then like, I think we came back the next year and they had like caution tape over it.
Yeah,
Because I remember they took a little while to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually they got it fixed, and then they put a sign on there that said like no more than 5 people on the bridge at
yeah,
once,
you
please.
can't have more than 5 people on the bridge.
And that is why that is the story of why that sign is there. By
So if
the
you ever had
suspension
Hollis-
bridge
We
in
made
Hollis
our
Center.
mark on the world.
If you're ever at the Hollow Center and you find a bridge that says no more than 6 people or 5 people or whatever it says, that was
Now
us.
you know why.
We were there that fateful day.
Oh, dude, it was. I remember it took a lot of time to regroup. One kid did break his ankle. I remember.
Yeah, he like
Oh,
chipped
yeah,
it. He
yeah,
chipped
yeah.
a bone in his heel or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. That was rough.
Yeah. There were tears and there were adults rushing all over the place. I felt like I was like a survivor of like a bombing or something.
Cause we got back to the church and then it might have been Jake. It might have been your dad or your mom or something. Was like talking to the parents of all the kids. They're like, they had us all lined up. They're like, okay, so an incident happened while we
Oh,
were
I
Oh,
do
yeah.
remember this.
So something
this
happened.
is what happened.
This is a
We
problem.
were all lined up against a brick wall, weren't we?
Yeah. We're like sitting there for a debriefing or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What an
And I remember like
experience.
whenever we would go there later, and it was like with people who hadn't been there before, they'd be like, "Hey guys, look at the sign. Only 5 people at once. I wonder what happened here." And we'd be like, do not cite the deep magic to me. Wish I was there."
I was there when it was written.
Like, sit down, child. Let me tell you a story.
Sit on
me
this
tell you a
bridge and
tale.
let me learn you something.
Listen up. Here's a story.
It's crazy. But that was a good camping trip.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
overall, it was a good camping
like,
A little bit nerve wracking.
yeah, I mean, and I can't stress enough how idyllic that the Hollis Center campsite is. It's like, you know, there's the campfires. The cabin that we always stayed at, the boys one specifically, had like a little indoor eating area, and then a projector screen, and then there was also a deck with tables out there as well, and then it was like right next to a fire pit. So
Oh,
you could
yeah.
just walk out the side door, and you'd pretty much you take a couple steps, and you're at the fire pit. You could roast some marshmallow.
Oh,
It's
many a story was told at that fire pit.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yes.
when I think
Remember-
of camp out, that's pretty much where my mind goes.
Sacrifice. Yeah, me.
Oh yeah, and there's also like a little ways up the hill, because there's a lone cabin up the hill from a distance away from the other 2 cabins.
We stayed at that cabin.
Yeah, we
before.
stayed at it once, and a little ways up that hill is there's like a labyrinth in the ground made of bricks. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
It's a nice little touch, but it's usually covered with leaves.
That's true.
Well, hilarious. So, the year we stayed at the cabin up along that way there, Davis and I and one of his friends that he brought with us,
I
we
wanna
locked
be
the
there
doors
again.
to we locked the door to the room we were in, and we had like a sliding glass door
I know.
outside.
Yeah,
I know
every
this
room
story.
did, just about.
Yeah, so we locked the doors and we turned on What Does the Fox Say? And we
Oh,
like
yeah.
blasted it full volume. And we had so many people like banging on the doors and like going around the deck side and like smashing the doors like, dude, turn it off.
Oh man,
Like,
that was
no,
like
we're
that was
jamming
the
out
year
in
that
the
Davis wouldn't stop playing in. He like that borderline was like rickrolling at that point.
That would have been 2015.
Seriously.
No, that was either 2014 or 2015 because 2014 was the year that song came out.
I think it was 2014 because I was there 2015.
Okay, so then it would have been 2014.
Yeah, that
So
means the bridge was either 2016 or
It was 2016.
2016.
Yeah, then that means actually that would have been the first camp out would have been 2013 then because we stayed in that cabin the year after the first.
Wow.
We learned our lesson.
The mystery
It
solved.
wasn't-
Yeah, I remember, like we were creeping around that lone cabin up at the hill, and I saw Carson and someone else were in a room, and he was holding a bag of popcorn, and I like came up to the glass door and I like dumped on it, and I scared them both, and he like turned around and he like hit his face behind the bag of popcorn.
I thought you were gonna say you threw popcorn everywhere.
No.
That's my rendition of popcorn being thrown everywhere.
All right. Do we have any more stories for this episode?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I'm exhausted.
I'm currently at an hour and 36 minutes. I assume
That's
you
where
guys
I'm
are
at,
at
too.
the same thing.
Yeah,
Actually, you know
just
what?
about.
I have one last little tidbit I can
All right.
tell
Go
about senior church camp. Now, I was raised in a Christian household,
Indeed.
and going into any environment that involved the influence of Christianity, like church or church camp, I always expected, it's gonna be all just like my family. We're gonna be chastain. We're gonna worship Jesus all the time, and we're gonna have a good wholesome time. That's not at all what senior camp was like. Let me tell you. But
No.
so
No.
yeah. So so there's like a snack shack at the senior camp that we went to, and you could get
is
like
this the story I think it is?
maybe, I don't know if I've told you the story. So you could get like milkshakes and burgers there, during
Oh,
free
yeah,
time.
I have.
And so I was standing there with my friend, and we were waiting in line one evening to get like a milkshake or something, and there's this girl that ended up behind us in line, and she had been like messing with me all week. She had been the main thing she had been doing is she'd been taking my hat off my head, and the particular hat that I had been wearing that year was of significant sentimental value. It was the one that I had made as a Cub Scout in my pack, and I'd worn it. I just painted it blank red because red was my favorite color, and I wore it all through Cub Scouts, and I wore it to a lot of my Boy Scout campouts as well. And eventually, my head got too big for it because it was like they bought it for children. It was a kid's hat, and the color red sort of faded more to almost a pink now, but it still fit me at the time. And I was like getting real tired of her crap, and I was also a dumb kid, a dumb teen, and I didn't realize that I think this was flirting of some sort. If I'm to understand it correctly. Women.
This.
But anyway, she had been, doing that all week, and then she ended up behind us in line, and she's like, hey, you want to see something cool? And I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, sure, I guess. And she's like, put out your hand. And I held out my hand, and she put something in it. And then she closed my hand around, my fingers around it. And then she's like, look at it, but don't let anyone see it. And I was like, okay.
Oh,
And
I know.
I
This
held it.
story
I
is-
like opened up my hand, and it was a
Oh.
condom. And I was like, oh, so it's that kind of party. No,
Ah.
I was like, oh.
What?
Do I need to take a moment and remind you of where we are right now? Thou art an harlot. No, I'm just kidding.
We're supposed to be learning about Jesus.
This is a Christian.
What in the
Minecraft
church
server.
camp is going on here?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you know what? You can take that back. I almost like went and dropped it on the floor, but I didn't make a scene. I was like, you can just you take that back. I don't want
great
anything to do
heavens.
with that. And I just like turned around. I tried to ignore her as best I could. But
Jeez,
like,
dude.
yeah, she basically that was like her giving me the green light.
All right. Awesome.
Kind of freaky.
Yeah, that's
I have
Especially because I can tell you, hey, I knew in the moment, and I could tell you looking back now, I was not ready for that. I wasn't ready for just a relationship, let alone whatever a condom entails.
I was at that same snack shack when me and my hooligan friends rolled up looking for some snacks, and these guys, I decided to not fraternize with them when this situation happened, but they had the bright idea. They all wanted the same thing. They all wanted like a burger or like 2 burgers or something like that. I wanted like my own thing, like a pizza burger or something like that. So I was
Okay.
But they decided, instead of just one by one in a line ordering what they wanted, to make this whole big thing to where one person would take all the money and this one person would order like 24 burgers or however many they wanted.
Right.
And it took them a total of like 15 minutes to figure out what was happening. They like had to let all these people go past them, and I went past them and was like, I literally just want like a pizza burger and some pickle fries or whatever, please.
Pizza burger.
It was really good too. If you're
Wait,
ever there
what
again,
is
I
the,
recommend it.
can you describe that to me?
It's like a, oh dude, it had like mozzarella cheese, like a slice of mozzarella cheese, and it was like,
Red sauce
yeah, it had red sauce.
and
it
a
was like
normal like patty.
it had like a bun, it had like a patty, and I think it had like a couple other things kind of mixed into it, like maybe
Interesting.
pepperonis. It was
I don't
so
remember
good.
that.
I loved it. It was great, but
I think
it took each of them like so long to finally get all their food. It was so stupid of them.
Oh wow! I think I remember like I came to senior camp like the second to last year or the last year that I was like to be there,
Right.
and they had like discontinued serving one of the like better menu items. I don't remember if it was the fries or the onion rings or something like that, but I remember they're like, no, we don't do that anymore. I was like, what?
We don't do that here.
Yeah, that sucked.
That's unfortunate. Well, that's all my camping stories.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember at the moment. So
Quick shout outs to the vintage bowling alley that used to
Oh,
be
yeah,
at
dude.
that camp. By the way,
Rest
I
in
can't believe
peace.
they did what they did to it.
yeah, it was kind of disappointing. I missed bowling in there.
Yeah,
For
it was
those that
cool
don't
because
know-
everything
They
was
had
like
They
old
had
school,
some good food in that area, dude.
but it was like not ancient. It was like 80s era, I would say.
For those that are curious what Jake means by what they did to it, they literally just refurbished it into like just a room.
Yeah, it's like not an alley
Yeah.
anymore. It's just a big open like room with like
They put like a small little
Stage.
like platform at the end of it for like speakers and stuff.
I think didn't they have like a Xbox in there at one point?
There's still
Yeah, they put an Xbox and a PlayStation. I thought.
there's still an
Yeah.
Xbox and like a PlayStation in there.
What about do you know that like I think it was like a skiing arcade game that they had in one corner of the bowling alley. Was that
It's gone.
still there? They took that out?
Yep.
Man, I imagine that would be more hassle than they just leave it there because that thing was massive.
Right.
Well, here's the thing: times are changing. Kids don't do that stuff anymore.
I know, but I just feel like it wouldn't be worth it to. I mean, it was huge. Like it's the kind you climb up onto, and it had like moving parts and
What
on
the
top
heck?
of a screen and like handlebars and stuff. Like to me, it wouldn't have been worth trying to find the resources to move it and a vehicle that could handle its girth and size, and then finding somewhere to put it. Like
Well, I mean, when you have the resources, they do. So.
When you're at a camp,
Maybe,
I
I
feel like
guess.
I would be all over that at a camp, dude.
yeah,
I'm
I
like-
played it. I played
Who
it.
wants to play on the Xbox? I'm going skiing.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can't get that kind of haptic feedback on a 360.
I know.
Ugh.
Okay.
Kids these
so
days have no
let's-
respect for the classics.
No, they don't.
They don't really.
I'm sorry, we turned into old men for a second.
We did. Well, yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. It's, yeah, we're at,
It's.
we've been going for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen,
Thank you guys once again for joining us this month.
yes, I can't stress enough how much we appreciate
Oh yeah.
you tuning in.
Everybody who's been here the last 3 months you guys mean a lot to us. You really do.
Yeah, shout outs
Um,
to our
if this is your
Moroccan
first time-
listeners which are apparently a thing. You know, if you live in
Yeah.
Morocco and you listen to this podcast, hey man or woman,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Unless you're a bot, in which case I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Bully
But anyways,
McGuire.
if this is your first time joining us, please go back and listen to episode 1 and 2. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you guys were coming back again after already listened to those, thank you so much. You guys mean so much to us.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything you want to say that you want us to see, my personal recommendation just for visibility would be to go to the YouTube version of whatever episode you want to leave a comment on and comment there.
Yeah.
And what's the YouTube channel again?
Quinturkle.
Spell it.
Just like the channels on whatever podcatcher you use.
Yep. And you can also go to the Instagram, but I'll put that somewhere. I'll put that into some kind of description somewhere. So.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you guys for joining us.
it's another episode down. We'll see you next month,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. See you
Bye.
guys next time.
Everyone have a good one.
Thank you guys once again for joining us on this month's episode of the Time Capsule Podcast. Our intro music, as always, is Rareness of Existence by Ader Da Silva. Our outro music is called Chill Hot Main by Zakar Valaha. These can both be found on pixabay.com. Don't forget you can also follow us on Instagram at Time Capsule Podcast 2041. And you can follow our YouTube channel at Quinturkle. If you need help with the spelling, just look in the artist section for this podcast. If you have any future episode ideas, like stuff you want to hear us leave in this online time capsule, please leave a comment on one of our YouTube videos. We also plan on doing a vlog for you guys in the future, but that will require you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us here on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to us. We greatly appreciate every single one of you, and we cannot wait for next month.